1990, I'm working for the BBC, and I'm in a hotel called the Kensington Hilton, working for the BBC just across from Shepherd's Bush, where the main station is. And this, it was one night, I just got back from the studio, and this presence in this room, I'm on my own, was so tangible. I sat on the side of the bed and I said, look, if there's something there, would you please contact me, because drive me up the wall. And then very soon afterwards, only a matter of days, a week or so maybe, I'm with my son Gareth, he's a little boy then, and we were going to go into a cafe on the railway station on the seafront at Ryde. But it was full, so we were going to go up into the town and find somewhere. And then someone stopped me, a railway worker, wanted to talk about football. And I talked to him for a little bit, and I realised that Gareth, that my son Gareth, was not there. But I knew where he'd be. He was in the newsagent right next to where I was standing. And he was looking at the books, the steam train books. We like steam trains. And so I walk into this this newsagent, and I'm standing at the door, and I said to Gareth, "Come on, Gaz, we'll go up in the town, get something to eat." And as I did so, it was like, well, the atmosphere changed. I didn't understand it at the time, but I would say now, actually, I was standing in suddenly there was an electromagnetic field surrounding me. The atmosphere changed. My feet started to get stuck to the ground, like magnets pulling them. And I'm sort of doing this business, what's happening? And then it wasn't a voice, it was more of a very strong thought form passed through my mind, which said, go and look at the books on the far side. So I'm in bewilderment land here. I mean, what's going on? And so I'm starting to walk towards the books. And I knew this newsagent, I'd been in there loads of times, get me paper there. And I knew what the books were. They were like Mills and Boon and Barbara Cartland. They were romantic novels for the tourists. You know, it's a seaside town. And I walk over thinking, what is going on? And then I got to the books, and in there was one book that was different to all the rest. And it had a woman's face on the front. It's called Mind to Mind. So I picked it up because it was so different. All the others were Barbara Cartland and Mills and Boon, like romantic novels. And I turned it over, and I'm reading the blurb, and I saw the word psychic. So I went back home, and I read it in 24 hours, and I contacted this woman. Her name was Betty Shine. She was a professional psychic and hands-on healer, which is just an exchange of energy and exchange of information. And so I wrote to her, and I went to see her. And what I said to her was, I've got arthritis, and maybe your hands-on healing will help. But the real reason I went is I thought, will she pick up what's around? Because I've never seen a psychic before. Will she pick up what's going on around me? So I go, and she does the hands-on healing on the first visit, hands-on healing second visit. We have a nice chat. I go the third time, and I'm on this medical type bench in her front room in a place called Hassocks near Brighton. And she was working on my left knee. And then I felt like this spider's web on my face, very tangible, very tangible. And it hit me because I'd read in her book, when other dimensions of reality or entities, whatever you want to call it, trying to lock into you, you sometimes feel like there's a spider's web on your face. Now, obviously I didn't understand it at the time, but what was I experiencing? Again, I'm experiencing an electromagnetic field. That's what this spider's web feeling is, an electromagnetic field, because that's the information connection. And it's the same process in a big excited crowd when all the hair stand on your neck. It's an electromagnetic phenomenon. Anyway, I didn't say anything to Betty. She's doing that. And but I thought, crikey, that was in her book. And then about 15 seconds later, she launches her head back like that. She goes, my God, this is powerful. I'm going to have to close my eyes for this one. And my bum is now starting to slide down the bench. What's going on, right? So she says that she's seeing a figure in her mind, which again, just a projection. And this figure was asking her to communicate with me. The first thing that said, she said, they're saying they know you wanted to contact you, but the time wasn't right. She had no idea about this thing in the hotel room. Would you please contact me, drive me up the wall? I never mentioned that to her at all. But then, interesting in the light of what has happened is I was told I was going to go out on a world stage and reveal great secrets, that I would face enormous opposition, but they would always be there to protect me. That information would be sometimes put into my mind and I would think, where did that come from? My God, has that happened in the last 30 years? And other times I would be led to knowledge, which has happened constantly in the most synchronistic way. I couldn't have put the information I put together unless there was some unseen force opening and closing the doors in the maze that was leading me to this stuff. The synchronicity of the way this information has come to me, and in layers. First of all, in the early 90s, it was like 5 cents information, banking scams, political scams, how the whole thing works. Then it was, non-human entities. Then it was illusory nature of reality, and it's all kind of been so synchronistic. But so I was told I was going to go out on the world stage and reveal great secrets, and it's happened. What was one of the lines she said? One man cannot change the world, but one man can communicate the message that can change the world. And that's the point. It's all about information. Information changes the world. Lack of information has created the one we live in.
Mm. On Wogan, you predicted some natural disasters, floods, earthquakes, that didn't happen. Do you ever regret saying things like that?
No, because that was all part of the ridicule that followed, that cleared me out of all this fear of what other people think. But there's an interesting story surrounding that. Because I spent, oh, look, they're after me.
Trying to silence you.
I spent the 1990, after I met Betty Shine, and again, synchronistically, very soon after I met Betty Shine, BBC cancelled my contract. They didn't do anything that was going on. They cancelled my contract because I was a member of the Green Party and apparently giving the football results and saying the economic system is destroying the world, we're incompatible, but that's the BBC for you. Anyway, through 1990, I wrote a book called Truth Vibrations about what was happening to me, not that I really understood it. And I called it Truth Vibrations. It's an interesting story as well, because in this period immediately following Betty Shine, I found myself, again, synchronistically, coincidence, not looking for it. I went to see Betty Shine, I made a decision, but I started meeting other psychics that I never went to see, but came into my life synchronistically. And there was a common theme that I was being told, which is that there was a vibrational change coming, what I would now call an informational frequency, energetic change coming, that was going to wake humanity up from its coma, its slumber, that there was a story that had to be told, that there was a massive shadow across the earth, the world, that needed to be lifted, and that this vibrational change was going to have two effects. One, it was going to wake people up from the coma. Those that were more awake would be affected first, but eventually those that were solid gold asleep then would be affected. And secondly, all that had been hidden was going to be brought to the surface where we could see it. Now, of course, in 1990, when this was happening, I was being told this. There was no evidence of any of it. But look at it now. Look at what we know now. We didn't know then. Look at what we know now we didn't know 5 years ago about so many different things. And that's why I gave the name of the name to this change as Truth Vibrations. Everything would be brought to the surface. Anyway. What then happened as I finished this book, Truth Vibrations, towards the end of 1990, is suddenly I became not obsessed, but Peru kept coming into my mind. And I would walk down the street and I'd look in, like, say, travel agents, and I would see Peru, and I would see pictures of Peru. Then I'd turn on the telly, there'd be a documentary about Peru. It's all Peru. And eventually, purely on intuition, I got on a plane to Peru, and that's the whole story in itself. That the synchronicity of it, and I found myself going around Peru with this Peruvian guide who knew the places, and I went to Machu Picchu and Cusco and all these places, and what was happening was every day I'd feel, I need to go here. And it was a strange kind of sequence because the Peruvian guy, not possible. But we'd always end up there somehow. he took me down to a place called Puno, near Lake on Lake Titicaca, highest navigable lake in the world, they say. And he booked us in this hotel, nothing to do with me, called the Siustani Hotel in Puno. And I've never heard of Siustani, what it was. So because of the name of the hotel, there's kind of pictures of this Siustani all over the place, all on the walls of the hotel. And it's like ruins. And I said to the guy, what sort of, they're Inca ruins. I said, I want to go there. Not possible. We ended up there. And to get there, I had to, because it was out of season, I had to hire a little minibus taxi, and him and the driver and me go off to Siustani. And it was absolutely beautiful place. There's a lake and mountains and these ruins, and so I go there, and I had this massive urge to go. I mean, I'd have walked there if I had to. I had this massive urge. I've got to go to this place. Didn't know why. Anyway, I walk around the ruins for a bit, and it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But then I walk back to the bus, and I'm feeling like it was great, but why did I have this urge to be here? Because it was good, but it weren't like, it didn't match this. So we get into the taxi, and we're going back to Puno now. And I'm looking out, usual thing, daydreaming. And as we're just coming up, not far out of Siustani, just a little group of houses, tourist shops is what it is. I'm looking out, and I'm seeing this hill to my right. And I'm looking at it, just daydreaming away, and all I can hear in my head is, come to me, come to me, come to me, come to me. You know, introducing the snooker was far more straightforward. What's happening to you? I mean, you know, a bloody hill's talking to you now. What's going on? So I said to the guy, the driver, could you just stop a minute? I'm just going up that hill. I won't be long. And I walked up the hill, and when I got up there was kind of stones there. And I walk into the middle of these stones, and I'm looking at a beautiful view over distant mountains, across Siustani, across the distant mountains. And suddenly, it was like in the news agent's shop, my feet started to vibrate and get warm, bottom of my feet. And it was like magnetism again. And then my arms went out at 45 degrees like that. I made no conscious decision to do that. And then I'm feeling a drill going into my top of my head and through my body. I'm feeling something coming the other way and out. Energy now. I'm clueless then. What's going on, you know? So I'm standing there like this, thinking. Introducing the snooker was so much more easy. What's going on about that?
What does that mean? Introduction to snooker was so much easier.
I used to present snooker programs to the BBC. Okay. Hello, good evening and welcome. Here's the snooker. That's much easier than what was happening to me, I'll tell you. Because I didn't understand it. It was just all bewildering to me. But I went with it. Some idiots said, go with it. And anyway, then, while I'm in this state, this energy is getting stronger, and I'm starting to shake a little bit. This very clear, not voice again, but very clear thought form went through my mind, and it said, it will be over when you feel the rain. And I'm standing under a cloudless Peruvian sky, a big red nose to show it. And I'm hearing this. At that point, I did start to question this, and I thought, this has got to be nonsense, this. What is happening to me? Anyway, this energy built up until I'm basically shaking. And what I was doing was coming in and out of consciousness, in the sense that, you know, you drive a car and you don't know where the last 2 miles has gone. Your subconscious has been driving the car. It was that was happening. And one of these times where I came back to consciousness, the whole thing took about 40, 50 minutes, maybe an hour. I saw over the distant mountains that there was a light grey mist. And I thought, it's raining. And then it got darker. And in a ridiculously short time. I mean, if I made a like a fictional movie about this, people say, oh, come on. I agree with you, but it happened. This rainstorm comes out of the out of the mountains, and it's like people talk about people talk about a front coming over. This front was dead straight. This rain was coming at me dead straight. I've described it as like pulling curtains across the sky. And it's coming towards me, and by this time I'm shaking with this energy. And I watched this rain, this wall of stair rod rain, come towards me. You really just couldn't make it up. I mean, I thought, well, if I say this happened to me, people say, well, that's crazy, man. I mean, that would never happen. It happened. And then the rain hit me, and I was soaked in an instant. Such was its, the level of it. And when the rain hit me, the energy stopped, and I staggered forward. Now, my arms have been like that all this time, never felt a thing. Now, shoulders, agony. And I felt my legs were like Bambi, hardly stand. And my feet were vibrating, my hands were vibrating for ages afterwards. I couldn't sleep that night because my body was vibrating, my feet, my hands were vibrating. And then I came back to Britain, and it was like you lived in a bubble, perceptual bubble, and then someone came along in an instant and burst the bubble. Now, information, concepts, understandings, all these things is pouring into your conscious mind. In an instant, it's like a dam's burst. And it was like pressing too many keys on a computer too quickly. The computer goes, I'm freezing, can't process this. And that was the Wogan show period. It only lasted 3 months. I didn't know what was happening to me. I was desperately trying to get a grip of what was happening to my life and understand what was going on. And in that 3 months, if you'd have asked me my name, I would have checked. And I end up on a primetime chat show, watched that night by 17 million people, apparently. That was one of my greatest gifts because of the enormous ridicule that followed that. Because that's what cleared me out, the fear of what other people think. And, what then happened after all the incredible ridicule and stuff. I mean, I couldn't walk down any street without being laughed at. Everyone was laughing at me in the street. Go into a bar, forget it. It was uproar.
What does that do to you?
Well, I was completely bewildered. But on that, Brian, when I was doing that Wogan interview, I was part of me, if you like, the 5 sense level of me was kind of dying because they were laughing at me from the audience almost from the moment I sat down, and Wogan's playing to the audience and all that stuff, but so part of me's dying. I thought, but I was so aware, and I can still remember it, still feel it. Something was saying to me, "It's going to be fine. This is going somewhere. This is leading somewhere. It's going to be fine." And that kind of drove me on.
Yeah, you actually seemed very calm in your convictions. You were like, okay, they laughed at Jesus. And it seems like you knew you had the message and whatever it took to get it out.
But I didn't know what it was at the time. But what then happened is about 3 months it was. I wouldn't say it happened overnight, but close to that, the computer unfroze. And people were saying to me, "Well, I thought you'd gone mad, mate. You seem the same David I used to know." I was outwardly. But now I was seeing pictures, not pixels. I was seeing patterns, not strands. I could see things I couldn't see before. And of course, all the media has ever done is remember that 3 months, as if the last nearly 30 years doesn't exist. And of course, they've completely ignored that book, the mainstream media, even though it's explosive stuff. But there's many reasons. A, that which runs the media doesn't want that circulating to to as many people as possible. But there's another thing. They left what they thought was a corpse symbolically lying in the gutter. Well, that's him then. Now I'm talking to big audiences all over the world. I don't think they can work it out. What's gone on? The only way that they can kind of process it is the audience must be as mad as him. But you know what I've found is that when you talk to them privately, journalists that would ridicule you in the paper, I've got great sympathy with this information. A lot of them have anyway, not all by any means. And so that period of 3 months defined me in the media, but it also defined me as a person. It defined me as someone who couldn't give a damn what other people thought. And that's been vital, because you don't write what I write if you care what other people think about you. You don't do it. But I do, because I don't care.
Yeah. 10 years from now, what are you going to be talking about on stage? What's that book you're going to write? Where are you going with your message?
Well, ultimately, I have no idea. You know what changed my life, Brian? I decided when all this happened that when my head and my heart, my intuition, my thinking and my knowing were at odds, I was going to go with this. And that's what I've done. And there were times in the early days, the very early days, when this was going, what, you can't do that, what are they going to think about you? And then eventually, what happens is, if you keep going with your intuition, you keep going with what you know, obviously you're going to get into situations where mainstream society are going to think you're crazy, because this does not see the world and what we should do and what I should do the same way that this does, which is connected to the postage stamp consensus, or was, not so much then, but I've questioned things all of my life, but to an extent, yes. And what happens is, when you go with your intuition, this starts to see that although you get into some scrapes, it all works out in the end, and not despite the scrapes, because of them, like the freeing of me of fear of what other people think, or the ridicule. And there reaches a point, it happened to me, in the 93, 94, where this and this speak as one unit. So when my intuition says, I feel to go there, or I know to go there, this goes, okay, let's go. War's not there. And so when we're, talking about where this goes from here, that will decide where it goes from here, because that's what I've followed all these years. That's what I'll follow until I withdraw into the great forever. But what I feel in this next period is, if the stadium in which this is played out is human perception, then human perception is what we must focus upon, and particularly human self-identity. There is no little me, there's only the perception of it. There is no little me, it doesn't exist unless you believe in it. Then you create it, but it's still a hoax, it's still an illusion, but you live it because you believe in it. So taking control of perception back is taking control of the world back, taking control of our lives back. So that's going to be the focus of these evening events that I'm going to do in Britain and all around Europe, and eventually the world from the spring of 2018.
Okay. What scares you?
Nothing. Because fear is if you break it down, fear is the prison. It's being in fear of something that limits us because we fear the consequences. If we fear consequences, then we don't do what we think will produce those consequences, even if it's the right thing to do. Like speak your truth in fear of what people will say about you. So fear is the trap. People, you see some ancient accounts and themes of the time that fear came into the world when it wasn't there before. I think when this hijack of human perception started, that brought fear into the world. So if you fall into fear, you're falling into the trap. What is there to fear? We are all that is, has been, and ever can be. There is no death. There's just transition from one point of attention to another. What is there to fear? Nothing. And if we don't, the game's over, because fear is what controls us.
What keeps you awake at night?
Thinking about and perusing about and night dreaming about how I can be more effective. I usually go to bed maybe 9, 10, and I'll sleep till 2, 3 very well. And then I'm awake and not awake. I get up about 6 o'clock. And in that period, I do a lot of daydreaming in bed. So that keeps me awake. And I feel, I guess a lot of people have this. The older I get, the less sleep I seem to need. Yeah.
David, I always ask everyone that comes here a few questions at the end, and I'm going to ask you now. If I gave you a phone, something created from the Devil's Playground, and you could make a phone call to the 20-year-old David Icke and give that young man a bit of advice. Maybe he's still playing football but about to quit. What would you tell him based on everything you know now?
Change perception, change your life. Collectively change perception, change the world. We all wish we'd have known things earlier, but understanding this feedback loop would have got me to change my perceptions earlier, I think, because you can think, especially when you're younger, that you're unlucky. Things don't happen for you, like you get arthritis and your career ends that you dreamed of all your childhood, that it's bad luck, that you're a victim of circumstance. But once you realize perception equals experience, what you believe you perceive and what you perceive you experience, then you can take control of your life back. And when I look at the arthritis, I take that to be a gift as well, because I joined a club called Coventry City when I was 15 and a half. My left knee swelled up, and over the period I was still playing football as a professional until I was 21. Other joints started swelling up and other became painful, but I refused to give in. I'd wanted this career my whole childhood. I'm not giving in yet. So I was told at the age of 19, when I was at Coventry City, which was in what we now call the Premiership then, it was called the First Division then, I was told, you must stop playing football. You must never play football again. And you'll probably be in a wheelchair by the time you're 30. Right? And they gave me some pills. I think they were called Indesit. I'm sure they were called Indesit. And I said, well, will this get rid of it? They said, no, nothing will get rid of it, but this will take the pain away. I said, well, you can keep them. And I never took them. I'd be dead now if I did. I know people who've been on long-term Indesit. They don't live a long life. Because even then I thought, I don't buy this pharmaceutical stuff. I don't feel good about it. Anyway, I got the arthritis, and again, when I look at things and the synchronicity, I'm 19. I've got this arthritis. They're saying take these pills, and I'm saying I'm not taking them. And it just so happened that the person that basically brought acupuncture into Britain, a guy called Professor Arthur Worsley, lived down the road from me. And there was an article about him in the local paper. So I go over, and he was running it out of his front room then, or in his front room, his spare room. And he knew me. He'd read about my story in the paper about my career ending and all that stuff. at Coventry. So I find myself at the age of 19 having acupuncture with this guy who basically brought it to Britain. Very, very famous within acupuncture in Britain. And so the dominoes start to fall because he's putting needles in me legs and in my body. So what's the question? How does it work? On what basis? So suddenly we're having this chat about the nature of the body and energy and information, all that stuff, and I'm 19. If I hadn't got the arthritis, that conversation would never have taken place. So because the acupuncture eased it, I then go to another football club, Hereford United, which had a very successful period, very famously successful period when I was there. Not because of me, but just happened to be. I played league football for Hereford for a whole season with rheumatoid arthritis. And every training session, especially in the cold mornings of winter, I was in agony, warming up till the joints got warm, and then it eased. And I playing the game, adrenaline got me through it. And of course, I couldn't say anything to the club because they thought, "What do you mean you got arthritis? What's going on? We need another goalkeeper. Can't play with that." And so I had a different excuse every morning. It was, I've got a bit of a pull, I think, when I was limping early on. I think I've got a bit of a blister. And I tell you what, Icke, you're a hypochondriac, mate. You've got something different every day. I actually got the same thing. But then after that successful season, we won promotion to a higher division. And I was only 19, 20. I was 20, which was very young for a goalkeeper in league football. And then one morning in the close season, between the seasons, I woke up in bed next to my then wife, Linda, married to her for 29 years. She's still a great friend, lives down around the corner for me. And I realized when I woke up that I couldn't move. And more than that, I couldn't breathe. And she's lying there and I'm trying to knock her. I'm 20 years of age, or just maybe turning 21. I'm trying to knock her, nothing will move. I thought I'm going to die because I can't get a breath. Eventually I gasped a breath. And the moment I gasped a breath, every joint in my body was like someone sticking a knife in it. It was agony. Linda was carrying me around for about 2 or 3 days. She had to help carry me to the toilet. I could hardly move. And my career was over, gone, kaput. Went to bed a footballer, woke up never to play again. And that was the next stage, because I then went on into journalism and stuff like that. And the whole story unfolded to present day. So even something like arthritis, it gave me, it triggered something inside me. This not to give in. Even though, you were in pain, I'm not giving in. I'm going to give it everything I can. I'm not going to give up. And the acupuncture, and because the arthritis stopped my football career at 21, it meant I had to go somewhere else in this synchronistic journey. If I'd have gone the full term of a footballer, being a goalkeeper, maybe 35, 36, none of this would have happened. So thank you.
Second part of that question, what's the best advice you've ever received? Could be from a psychic, could be from a voice, could be from a mentor, anything.
Me dad. My father had an incredibly challenging life. He was born in 1907, went through the First World War as a kid, fought in served in the Second World War as someone in the medical corps, won a major medal, the British Empire Medal for pulling people out of a burning plane, and he was a character.
These success secrets are only available on the London Real Academy. Become a member and get access to live shows, exclusive courses, my webinars, bonus content, meetups, live events, an amazing community, and much, much more. Now back to the rest of the show.
last part of that question, to the 20-year-old that's watching us now in China and Brazil and America, anywhere in the world, what advice do you give to them if they want to change their perception?
Realize that who you've thought you were up to this point is just an experience and a series of experiences. Those experiences have labels that you have been told is you. They're not. Labels have limitation. You do not. You are that point of attention having those experiences. And you can, by changing your sense of self, your sense of identity, your sense of your own potential to manifest the world that you, the life that you want, you have the power to live your life and not what society tells you your life should be. We shouldn't be frightened of uniqueness. We should celebrate it. Uniqueness is what infinite possibility is all about. Because what is infinite possibility except an infinite field of potential uniqueness? Be you, not what someone else says you should be. And if people won't accept that, whether they're parents, whether they're so-called friends, whether they're people at work, and they won't accept that, then find someone else. Because if they won't respect your right to be you, then what are you doing with them? You know, I've said to my kids, you know, don't believe what I believe just because I believe it. You live your life as you see fit. Of course, my children have encompassed this information, but if one or any of them had decided they wanted to be a Christian or a Hindu, I might have given my opinion on that, but I would have supported them completely, because they are a unique point of attention in infinite awareness. They are not my point of attention, and it's not my role and my arrogance to dictate and impose my point of attention upon them. It's their right to decide their perceptions, and anything other than that cannot even begin to claim to be a free society. It's kidding itself. And that's where we are now. So let's get it sorted.
David, I've been waiting 5 years to have you in that chair. And I'm in the media business, and yet I'm still subjected to the media bias. And I have all these preconceptions about you being crazy with the reptiles and all these things. But I sat here with you today for 3 hours.
And was that 3 hours?
Yes, sir. And you are saying the things that all of the great people that sit here tell me. You know, you are saying great themes that we all need to adopt as humans to just expand who we are, whether it's perception and all of these other pieces. And I think you have a very, very powerful message. The book is everything you need to know but have never been told. It's a fascinating read. I got all sorts of notes around here. And I'm not even a David Icke groupie.
I hope no one is. They're not listening if they are.
And I think one of the core things I saw with you on a stage, and it had one of your first slides up, and it said, awake, awake, awake. And I think that is the theme of everything you're talking about, and quite frankly, everything we talk about here on London Real. Become awake. Start questioning things. Start looking at why you behave the way you behave. Expand your mind, expand your consciousness. And these are really important themes. So I want to thank you, sir, for all the work you've done for the past 30 years and for keeping up the good fight when a lot of people wouldn't have. So thank you for that. I also want to thank Mr. Dorian Yates, who's the 6-time Mr. Olympia, who's always been telling me to have you on. He was, I'm sure he's watching this. He's a huge fan. I'll introduce you afterwards. And again, he's a man that has similar vibrations as you, that talks about these themes and really drills into our head. And he was sitting in that chair about 1.5 years ago, and he said, Brian, I know when you see that guy across the street who you look at him and you don't like him, and I know when I say that he and you are all one, that you think I'm crazy, but we are all one. And as soon as you can figure that out, that's when things start to really happen.
That's when we stop fighting each other.
I know.
You know. Yeah, if you hit yourself around the head with a baseball bat, they say you were crazy. That's symbolically what we're doing. We're fighting ourselves. Time to stop.
Yeah, it is. David, as we say on London Real, it's about the journey. I wish you well on yours. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your work. Please keep it up.
I will. Thank you, mate.
All right.
Pleasure.
The critics who always speak behind my back, maybe I want to hear them remind me, he's back, the great pretender. I hope this time he gets hurt. I love these guys. They give me fuel. If you want to reach your objective, you want to achieve it, you're going to have to be obsessive. You're going to have to be obsessed. Feel what you do. Feel it. If you're not feeling it, it doesn't matter.
It's Chris Eubank Jr. How do you explain his prowess in the ring?
Junior has that obsession, that genius, that magic. Genius is obsession, but it's in one area.
You studied the sweet science for so much of your life. How do you walk away from it? Do you miss it?
You can't walk away from it. I am it. And even when I dance, really I'm boxing. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, the one who strives valiantly.
What was the worst day of your life, and how has it shaped you as a human being?
When I fought Nigel Benn, I stood like this. It was to mask this. A risk must be taken. That's why you are London Realists. That's why we're here. We're tired of sitting still, watching it happening for others. Let's do it.